Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon SoulSilver. In the last part we explored around the Pokéathalon, showing off one in the process. And before we move on from the Pokéathalon Dome until we do that video specifically focused on this down the line, I do want to showcase the Apra Blender here. This is what I briefly touched on last part, where you can put some apricorns into this, walk around a bit, and you'll eventually get Apra Juice that you can use on your Pokemon to boost either one or all of their Pokéathalon stats. It's only really notable to use this down the line when you're trying to max out everything. And you can buy some Apra Juice flavors here depending on the day, so you don't need to spend time walking around to make the apricorns into Apra Juice. But this stuff can be key, even if at times, as long as you're extraordinarily precise, it's not 100% needed. You can theoretically win every set of events with every Pokemon. It's just that sometimes it might take finagling around, like, alright, I'm in the jump course, I have the two best jumping Pokemon in the game, and then one who just can't jump at all, like a Diglett, for instance. For now, though, it's time for us to move on towards our next destination, and one that has its own side thing we're going to be doing. I should note, I am recording, this piece of footage, rather, was recorded on a Thursday, if memory serves, and on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, the next area has a very particular minigame we can do. So let's do that first. Today's Thursday. That means the bug catching contest is on today. The rules are simple. Using one of your Pokemon, catch a bug-type Pokemon to be judged. Would you like to give it a try? Sure. Uh-oh, you have more than one Pokemon. You have to use more just the first Pokemon in your party. Is that okay with you? Yeah. Fine, we'll hold your other Pokemon while you cooperate. Here's the sports balls for the contest. The person who gets the strongest bug Pokemon is the winner. You have 20 minutes. If you run out of sports balls, you're done. You can keep the last Pokemon you catch as your own. Go out and catch the strongest bug-type Pokemon you can find. On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays here in the National Park, the bug catching contest is held. And in this at the moment, you can catch Caterpie, Metapod, Butterfree, Weedle, Kakuna, Beedrill, Paris, Venonat, Scyther, and Pinsir here in the area. Down the line, they'll add a few more Pokemon that are from other generations as well, but that's not for a while. Your score in this is dictated by the level of the Pokemon relative to the maximum that you can find here, their IVs relative to the max as a percentage, their HP relative to their max as a percentage, and the rarity of the Pokemon that you're catching. For instance, the highest score you can catch here is 400 by catching a Scyther or Pinsir at level 14 at the moment, with max IVs without dealing any damage. In the original Gen 2, I believe what Pokemon the other competitors would catch was completely set depending on who they were catching. But here, I believe it is completely random. The best thing to do with this is, if you're looking for one to catch a Scyther or Pinsir, namely Scyther, in my eyes, honestly, because more so than any other Pokemon, I think that Pokemon is useful on its own. It's, like I've said before, one of the few bug types I would recommend catching. And they even mark how many sports balls and what Pokemon you've caught down on the bottom screen. For winning this, you're going to get a Sunstone, if you win it, which is an evolutionary stone used for two particular Pokemon as of Gen 4. Later down the line, after the first half of the game is over, this can reward you with any of the evolution stones, but the Sunstone is easily the rarest out of those to find in the game. If you get second place, you get an Everstone. If you get third place, you get a Citrus Berry, and in fourth place, beyond the Constellation Prize, you get a held item known as a Shed Skin. Shed Skin's interesting in that it allows the Pokemon that holds it to swap in battle no matter what, even if there's a move in place like Mean Look or an ability that prevents them from switching or fleeing. It has limited usability in that those are very specific scenarios, but I could see positions where you'd want to use that, because there are a good amount of trainers in the game that have like Mean Look on their Pokemon preventing you from switching out. I'd say it's worth doing this at least once, even if you're not going for Pokédex completion, as you never know what you might find. Again, Scyther I really do like, but Pinsir's nothing to wave your hand at either, especially because it is a rarer Pokemon all the same. The big thing is if they're going to fit into your team at all, if you're even pre-planning a team. Because I know several people who don't really pre-plan Pokemon teams, at least for games that are already out. They just like to go in and see what they find. And that's completely valid. The only times I like to do that, though, is when the game is new. So, like, when Arceus came out, I went in going, well, I'm gonna have the Hisui and Typhlosion, but I don't know what else I'm gonna have. And I'm ultimately very glad I did that kind of method, because it made the team feel more organic. And the same thing's probably gonna happen in Scarlet and Violet. The biggest problem with this, I believe, is that you only get to keep the last Pokemon you catch, but I believe any other Pokemon you catch before that are still counted for your Pokedex. So in the case you say already have a Weedle, you can still catch a Kakuna and a Beedrill here, and they will count as caught for the Pokedex even if they don't go into your PC box at the end of the minigame. If anything, the biggest problem with doing this minigame right now is it really showcases how limited bug types were in Gen 1 and 2. But eventually I just had enough and decided to leave. You still have 14 minutes left. You want to finish now? Yeah, the Venonat's fine. Okay, please wait in the National Park for the announcement of the winners. We'll now judge the Pokemon you've caught. We have chosen the winners. Are you ready for this? Placing third is the bug catcher, Josh, with a writhing Metapod. Score was 263 points. Placing second is Picnicker Cindy, who caught a wriggling Metapod. The score was 294 points. The bug catching contest winner is Bug Catcher Don, who caught a whopping Pinsir. The score was 305. Everyone else gets a Shed Cells a consolation prize. Well, return to the Pokemon we kept to you. Here you go. We hope you'll take part in bug catching contests in the future. It's a fun distraction, but ultimately it is a distraction. And at this point, I take a quick transition so we can enter the National Park the normal way. The National Park is a very calming area. I love the normal music here, and there's even some good items to get. Also, the first mention of the Pokewalker. I'm not sure if I'm going to have an episode to talk about the Pokewalker itself. If anything, I'll do that during one or two particular videos just to kind of talk about what it was. But that was an accessory that came with Heart Gold SoulSilver at release. Finding copies of the game that still have it attached to them can be a little tough. And also inflates the price even more so for these particular games if you're looking for in-box copies. But they were neat little toys, and you got to hear Cole and Dylan Sprouse say Pokewalker like 6 times in that commercial. The most notable thing to find here in the National Park, Pokemon-wise, though, is I think this is one of the only places in the game you can catch a particular Pokemon we're going to be running into in a moment anyway. Though you can more or less find any of the bugs we've seen in the game so far here normally. The Weedle line, the Caterpie line, Pidgeys, Hoothoots. But the most notable Pokemon you can only find here at the moment at least is, unfortunately, Sunkern. Pure Grass type, meaning it's weak to Flying, Bug, Poison, Fire, and Ice. Sunkern was statistically the worst Pokemon in the series for years. It doesn't have any specialties. It takes a Sunstone to evolve into a Pokemon that's not even that much better than it. If I recall, it took until, I think, Gen 7 with Wishy-Washy's normal form to make a Pokemon that was statistically worse. I would only catch one per Pokemon for Pokedex completion, honestly. It's one of the few Pokemon I would just outright avoid. It's cute, though. I'll give it that. Most of the Pokemon trainers in here don't have anything super special, like there's some Snubbles and stuff. If anything, the next Pokemon trainer we fight has probably the most interesting Pokemon in here. But we do want to go out of our way to grab some items on the edge of the fence. You might notice, by the way, there was a weird texture on that rock wall up there. We can't do that until the very end of the game. I am going to be doing more or less a lap of Johto at the very end of the LP to grab whatever items I missed because of stuff like that. And there's probably even some other items I missed throughout the LP, and if there is, feel free to tell me. I'm probably not going to go back and grab them, but at least the knowledge of where they are will be in the comments section. The most notable thing for me is TM28 Dig. This is a ground-type move that is physical, and you more or less get pushed underground for a turn before striking with a really powerful move the next turn. The most useful thing about it is it gets you out of the way for a turn. So in the case you're up against a Pokemon you're weak against that's not a flying type and you want to just waste one of their PP, you can do that. The one thing of note, though, there is a move that gets doubled in damage if you're in the middle of using Dig when it's used, and that's Earthquake. We're not going to start seeing that until at least towards the end of the first half of the game, but we will eventually see that. For now, though, it's time for our next new Pokemon. This is Raichu, evolves from Pikachu when you use a Thunderstone on it. Like Pikachu, it is a pure electric type, meaning it's weak to ground. This is just Pikachu, but better. High attack stats, very high speed. It's very worth having one of these around. It's not the best in terms of defenses or HP, but it can take some hits at surprising times to me. Do I think its Alolan form is more suited to my tastes? Yes, because I like its boosted special stats. But that's just because I really like the regional variants myself for a lot of Pokemon. Except for Sandshrew, again. Adorable, but man, that typing was unfortunate. The biggest problem with Raichu, and this is, I don't even think I've talked about this yet, a problem with a lot of stone-based evolutions, most stone-based evolutions won't learn any more moves from leveling up after you've evolved them. There's only a select few that will still actively learn moves after using a stone on them. So in the case of, like, Raichu, you'd want to wait until Pikachu learns moves like Thunder down the level line before evolving it. Which means you might not be able to get a lot out of Raichu depending on the game you're playing, for instance. Speed up theme for this part, by the way, is Prismatic. This is the stage select theme from Mega Man 03. The next new Pokemon, though, is in this battle. After I decide whether or not I want Cunning Spore, which I don't believe I ultimately go for because I don't really care for that type of move. Oh no, I get rid of Growl for it. Either way, next new Pokemon is Cubone. This is a pure ground type, meaning it's weak to water, grass, and ice. Cubone might be little, but it's got some pretty stocky defenses for its size. With that said, that's really all it has going for it at this stage. When it evolves, from memory, it does get more in its attack stats, and a little more in its other defense stat as well, but it's still not great. This is more or less a case of it's not to my tastes, because by and large, casually, there's only a few Pokemon that I think aren't viable to use on a playthrough. Sunkern technically being one of those, for instance, same with Luvdisc in Gen 3, and a surprising amount of Pokemon in Gen 5, but that's mostly because too many of them take too long to evolve. But that's more or less the entirety of the national park. There's some cool stuff you can do here, but beyond the bug catching contest, the most interesting thing you can grab is the item I grabbed from some NPCs on the south, the Razor Claw, which gives Pokemon a chance of moving first in battle no matter what ignorant of the speed stat. That can be good to give to a lot of slower Pokemon if you're hedging on them being able to either not tank a hit or just sweep a Pokemon before they can get hit. For instance, I eventually give that to Dove's Final Evolution, because I believe that is the slowest Pokemon in my final team, if not second slowest. With that, now we're back in Route 36. This is where we got Rock Smash just north of the ruins of Alph several parts ago. Now we're on the western half of it. But we gotta get through some battles first. Notably, you can technically ignore this fight. If you come from the south from the other side of the national park, there's a tree you can cut down to get past and just ignore the national park entirely. But we have a new Pokemon here. This is Kadabra. This evolves from Abra starting at level 16. Still a pure Psychic type, so it is weak against Bug, Ghost, and Dark. All my compliments towards Abra are even stronger here. Very high special attack, very high speed, good at taking some special hits. It's just that its physical stats and HP are lackluster. If you're looking for something that can get some attacks in quick and hopefully not have to take any, it's a good option. Its evolution is only gotten through trading, which can be rough, like I mentioned last time, but it's a case of the second stage is still worth having around, I find. I've had several playthroughs, especially prior to the physical special split, where a Kadabra was all I needed for a lot of cases. And we're already going into our next new Pokemon here with this little kid. This is Tangela. Pure grass type, meaning it is weak against flying, poison, bug, fire, and ice. Tangela is a weird mon in that it's decently fast, has a high physical defense stat, but a high special attack stat. It couldn't really take much of a hit outside of that, but it did eventually get an evolution in Gen 4 that was honestly a lot more interesting because it got really good boosts to two of its other stats, and made it a lot more worth having around. The biggest problem of it from memory in Gen 4 and prior, I think, is some problems with its moveset not being super useful, but that's just kind of a curse for a lot of grass types, I find. Usually, if they don't learn the good attacking moves, they're only learning the status moves, which have a place, they just don't have a place much in my playstyle, is what it comes down to. This phone number can be surprisingly vital. I'll talk more about why in a moment. It's the first one of these I remember being like this, I know we've seen a couple of others. I'm the flower shop's Floria. Listen. When I sprinkled water on that wiggly tree, it jumped right up. It just has to be a Pokemon. If you soaked it... Oh, it's a squirt bottle. Select the tree for me. I want to see what happens. Okay. God. Saving for reasons, because there's an odd tree. Let's use the squirt bottle. The odd tree doesn't like the squirt bottle. The odd tree attacked. Next new Pokemon is Sudowoodo. Despite looking like a tree, it is a pure rock type, meaning it is weak to fighting ground, steel, water, and grass. Sudowoodo is very physically minded. It's got a good attack stat and defense stat, but the rest of its stats, barring I think maybe its HP stat, are kind of rough. And it having some very common weaknesses makes it kind of rough to use casually, even, I find. But it can have the ability Sturdy, which is a pretty interesting one to have around because it prevents you from being knocked out from a move at least once per battle. If it would have just knocked you out, it'll leave you at 1 HP. I think it has an okay learn set starting in Gen 4 because a lot of moves were reclassed into physical. The big problem is whether or not you just want to use it, because it doesn't have an evolution. It is the evolution of a Pokemon added in Gen 4 even. There are worse Pokemon to get, but there's probably also a lot better even in the rock type subtypes. Now, that particular boy we just talked to and got the phone number from, that is the first one I know for a fact gives you an evolution item every now and then when he calls you. He'll call you up and go, hey, I have something for you, and you can go back to get it. He can give you Firestones. There are a couple of other trainers we've found in the game thus far that'll give you items if you come back to them after they've called you, like I think one of the picnickers just south of Goldenrod can give you some berries or something. But more or less every evolution stone can only be found maybe once or twice through field items. Most of them are gotten through talking to people on the phone like that. The annoying thing about that is some really good Pokemon in this game require evolution stones, so it requires you to just randomly get called by them, and it sucks. I never liked that about Johto. It's always been one of the worst parts about it, coming back to it. That was fun. I want to give this to you for entertaining me. And we get the berry pots. With the berry pots, you can grow any berry from any region with no worries. That's right, I'll give you some berries too. Berry pots won't do any good without berries. So, this is the way you grow the main berries introduced in Gen 3 Beyond. Since there's no berry soil for you to plant them anywhere else in Johto. The big problem is, you don't get a lot of berries out of it for the time you put into it, so like you can plant an Oran berry in one of the 4 berry pots you get at any point in time. You have to wait like 2 days for them to be able to result in any actual berries for you to use. But it's a consistent way to get things like Oran berries if you want minor HP restoration, or if you want certain status ailment curing items like the P.E.K.K.A. berry. I should note, by the way, at this point you've probably gotten a couple yourself if you were playing along. Your mom will send you berries at the mart every here and there. Those berries are very competitively minded, because what they do is they have the damage taken from a specific type of move for the one time you have them. They're useful in very specific scenarios, but casually you're probably not going to come up against those, barring maybe some endgame gym leaders. So it's not really worth using them. If anything, they're probably better for selling in that angle. Plus, you can get them more or less infinitely if memory serves. This Drowsy is technically required to get to these apricorn trees up here. And by the way, I do believe they reclassed some apricorn trees here in Heart Gold, Soul Silver from Gold, Silver, and Crystal. Because some of the apricorn trees in the original game were early berry trees, but the original Gen 2 berries were very limited in what they were, because they were just like status curing items, like a paralysis cure berry, a poison cure berry. They've changed a lot of those trees into the various apricorn trees in this game, so they could have, honestly, more apricorns to give you. Because another problem with apricorns to me, not only are they used for very lackluster Pokeballs or the Pokéathalon stats, there's also not many of them to grab in the game at any point in time. I know they regenerate daily, but that's not a lot of them. Next new Pokemon, though, is a Stantler. Pure normal type, so it's weak to fighting, immune to ghost. Stantler's got some okay attack stats and decently fast. The big problem with it is it doesn't have an evolution until, technically, I think Arceus is considered a Gen 9 game. And its learn set, just from leveling, leaves some things to be desired. It can learn moves like Zen Headbutt that can be pretty good. The big problem is, because it's normal type, it doesn't get any notable stab bonuses for a lot of the moves it can learn, even through TM. There are better normal types, but there's also a hell of a lot worse normal types. If it got its evolution sooner, I would probably use Stantler a lot more often, because Wordeer has a lot of potential in Arceus, compared to Stantler on its own, at least. Now, this route is interesting, that it has the first forced variant of a battle type introduced in Gen 3, as well as the first optional version of it, I believe, because I don't think you could have run into any of these beforehand. But we're going to skip past the optional one because it's optional. But in that battle, Mortis hit level 25, so it's time for her to evolve. At level 25, Ghastly evolves into one of my favorite Generation 1 Pokemon. This is just, I love this design. This is Haunter. Still a Ghost Poison type, so it's still weak to Ghost, Psychic, and Dark. It's just Ghastly up another degree. High special attack, high speed. Other stats are a little lacking, namely, especially its defenses. But it's very worth using if you're looking for a fast special type user. The biggest problem with Haunter, as I've mentioned with several Pokemon already, is that its evolution is exclusive to trading with another trainer, which can be rough. But I think Haunter is good enough on its own that you can use this very easily. And upon evolution, it learns Shadow Punch, which is a physical ghost-type move that never misses from memory. But now, time for something really different. This is our first instance, I believe, in the game of a double battle. These were introduced in Gen 3. Essentially, you just fight two trainers at once, and you each throw out two Pokemon. Either Pokemon can target either Pokemon on either side, but you need to be careful in double battles, actually. Because there's some moves that can hit even your partner Pokemon. For instance, if I had the move Surf or Earthquake on Blaze, Surf could hit Kenny. Earthquake would not because of the flying type, but you need to be careful with your move choices and things like this. But we also got two new Pokemon here. First off, there's Clefable. Pure normal type in this generation becomes a pure fairy down the line, so it is currently weak to fighting, immune to ghost. Clefable is very tanky on the defense and HP side, combined with all its stats combined, and it has an okay learn set. It's not too fast, but it can do some damage if you use it correctly. Wigglytuff, on the other hand, normal type as of this generation, eventually it becomes normal fairy, so still currently weak to fighting, immune to ghost. This has one of the highest base HP stats in the series, I think, to this day at least. I think still top 200 or so out of the 1,000 or so Pokemon we got. It's got some good attack to back that up. The big problem is it can't take a hit too much on its defenses, and it's not too fast. Its HP makes up a bit for those defenses, but it's a Pokemon that I don't want to say takes some getting used to, but it requires a specific moveset to use, I think, super well. And for some reason, these trainers have each other's Pokemon to a T. If you want to get either of these Pokemon yourself, you need to use a Moonstone on their prior evolution. So with Wigglytuff, you need to use a Moonstone on Jigglypuff. With Clefable, you need to use a Moonstone on Clefairy. And I think you could have some moonstones by this point. I think you can find one maybe in like Union Cave somewhere, but you need to be a bit careful of that all the same. With that, welcome to Ecruteak City. I love this town. Oh, hello there. Hi, I'm Bill, and who are you? Kyle, huh? You know what? I'm the one who developed the system to transfer Pokemon, but it couldn't have been done by me alone. For example, do you know the Hoenn region? This girl, Lynette from Hoenn, made the Pokemon storage system easier to use. My friends all over the world are working together to improve the Pokemon trade and storage systems. I have to hurry back to Goldenrod and see my folks. Bye-bye! Lynette notably made the Pokemon storage system into what we have nowadays in lore, because back in Gen 1 and 2, you had to save if you wanted to either transfer Pokemon between boxes or switch which box you were using, period. It's one of the biggest things about Gen 1 and 2 that's just super clunky to use. I do believe doing stuff with your boxes, by the way, can cause the saving a lot of data to happen whenever you save, especially in your main Gen 4. It does feel reduced in occurrence here in Heart Gold SoulSilver. With that, now that we've seen Bill, we actively want to backtrack to Goldenrod City really quick. Because now that we've seen him, he's at his house back there. And that is surprisingly important. Wait, what? Red Gyarados? I'm sure that's nothing. So yeah, we need to come back to Goldenrod, and his house is the one on the west side just past the game corner. So let's see what's going on here. Hey, Bill. Hi, Kyle. Would you do something for me and take care of this Eevee? It came over when I was adjusting the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection. Someone has to take care of it, but I don't like being outside. Can I count on you to play with it, Kyle? Absolutely. I knew you'd come through. You're the real deal. Way to go. Okay, I'm counting on you. Take good care of it. And this is how you get your Eevee in this game. Eevee is a pure normal type, meaning it is weak to fighting, immune to Ghost. Its stats are all incredibly balanced, but there's no real specialty. There's a reason for that. For now, though, I can think of no better name for Eevee than that of my own brother. Welcome to the team, Chris. Professor Elm said Eevee can evolve into 7 different kinds of Pokemon, currently 8 with the addition of Fairy type in Gen 6. Eevee, more than any other Pokemon, showcases the theme of evolution in the series. Because depending on which evolutionary stone you get it, or what type of rock you level it up near, it can evolve into 7 completely separate types. Meaning it is extraordinarily flexible for whatever you're using. Each of the notable Pokemon it can evolve into do have different focuses on their stats, but with Gen 4 that doesn't matter as much thanks to the physical special split making Pokemon more viable in general. And in this house we can get the dowsing machine. There are many items lying about that aren't obvious. Touch the dowsing machine for a while to see if it makes a high-pitched noise. When it does, you know there's an item near you. Walking as you use it may make it easier to find items. Oh yeah, I heard there are items in Ecruteak's burned tower. I registered the bike earlier in the game, but this is what I'm going to use in my other register slot, because Heart Gold, SoulSilver Light register 2 items, which I think is the only other game to do in the series besides the 2 Gen 5 games. The dowsing machine is the item finder for this game. Hold down the touchscreen on that circle, and as you get closer to things, it gets higher in pitch and lights up brighter and brighter until you find the dot in the center. Get used to hearing that beeping, because I use the dowsing machine in basically every area, because frankly, it's the best version of the item finder, I think, in the series. Main Gen 4's wasn't awful, Gen 5's is okay, but this is just, I feel, the most accurate we ever got, since it doesn't just do what Gen 3 does, and literally point you, there's an item in that direction. Oh, but now it's in that direction. Oh, you're getting in towards it. This is just incredibly useful to me. In fact, I'd argue I probably use it more than the bike throughout the rest of the LP, which in its own way is kind of sad, but oh well. For now, let's head to the Ecruteak Dance Theater, because this place seems like it's going to be interesting. Hey, hey! Stop dancing with such a serious dance. Show me something like a hula dance. You mustn't push such a request on me. Huh? Are you telling me you don't respect what the customer wants? Well then, I'll show you how to dance. I'll show you a great one. Random Team Rocket Grunt. We should probably take care of this. What's the deal with that Team Rocket Grunt messing with my Komodo girl? You're a trainer, aren't you? Please help her. On it. Huh? Who are you? You dare to get in my way? Yes. This is technically a plot-important battle, so it's being shown at main speed. Thankfully, it's a Team Rocket run, which means it probably has a coughing or it's a coughing this time around. Oh no, what am I gonna do? It's not like with my moves that I can two-shot you, especially at this level difference. Oh god, the humanity! You don't need to worry about this. This is, I think, genuinely meant to be a joke fight, although it is definitely one of the earliest instances of a big problem in Johto. We'll get more into that in several parts, though. Also, I haven't mentioned it yet. There are two distinct different types of the poison status ailment. There's normal poison, and then there's badly poison that I think, like, Poison Fang and Toxic can inflict on you, I think, in specific. I think there might be, like, one or two more moves that can do it. Badly poisoned increases in damage with every turn it does damage to you, whereas normal poison does the same amount of relative damage percentage-wise per turn. Oh no, you make me look like a villain! Oops, I have an important mission. If they find out I was wasting time here, they'll make me start over as the lowest Team Rocket grunt. I better leave now. Bye. Ow. Wonderful, you're so courageous for your age. It was a rare sight to see. I want you to have this. Don't be shy. Take it. This is HM03. That's Serve. It's a move that lets Pokemon swim across water with ease. You do need a later gym badge to get it, to use it in the field, but it's a very powerful water-type move. You must be Kyle, correct? That was indeed excellent. Kind and strong, good at raising Pokemon as well. That person does know what to look for in people. No, that was just me talking to myself. Never mind. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 9, we're going to explore Ecruteak City in more depth before heading towards the gym. See you guys then.